My name is Winniehin Jemide, and this is my story. The idea for women and youth in governance and politics was born on a sunny afternoon in Lagos, Nigeria. I was in a car in a little bit of traffic when I noticed a newspaper vendor hawking a magazine. I looked a little closer and there was this strikingly beautiful, dark-skinned African girl on the cover. It was an insert for either The Economist or Forbes, and I bought it and flipped through it and read the story of this girl. She was the youngest parliamentarian in Africa ever, ran at 18 and was sworn in at 19. And as I read through the pages of her story, I was struck by the question, is it possible that my daughter, who at the time was 15, could be convinced to run for elected office in Africa? Following that afternoon where I flipped through the pages of the magazine and asked myself a simple question, the next logical step then became to convene a think tank. Where should we go from here? That think tank morphed into a first event where 24 women from 17 African countries and 8 young women gathered together to discuss the possibility of increasing the numbers. How were we going to do this? Out of that meeting, we, as the Women and Youth in Governance and Politics, decided that of the many things that came out of it, our obvious possibility was to pitch our tents in the area of research, to look deeply at exactly what the numbers were saying, because only the numbers could tell a story. It is impossible for me to talk about how I've come to be in this space without going back to my childhood. And there are a number of memories, but in particular this one, where we gathered in a place called the Civic Center in Port Harcourt, Rivers State in Nigeria. My mother was at the time the president of the National Council of Women's Societies, and this was just one of the many roles she held within the advocacy space for women. And on that particular day, the women had come together to affix their signatures to a memorandum that was making a demand for a Ministry of Women Affairs. And from that afternoon, the Ministry of Women Affairs in Nigeria was born. The past 7 years have, in truth, consumed quite a bit of personal energy, throwing myself behind designing the vision for women and youth in governance and politics, and, trying to keep our focus on what it is we set out to do, which was simply tell a story using numbers. There was a dearth of numbers. There is a dearth of numbers. We knew this. But we had to define a way to tell the story. Over the last 7 years, I have noticed so many more voices filling this space. And it's very pleasing to know that we're no longer in the minority. So while we might be in the minority in terms of numbers of women and young persons who are actually running for office or getting elected into office, we're certainly no longer in the minority with regards to advocacy, and we have to keep the story alive.